Item 10E, receive a report on the El Camino Real and Angus Avenue intersection improvements project and provide direction to staff.
So the item in front of you was brought to Council in June of this year to provide a status update and to seek Council direction on a couple of the design alternatives. And the project consists of enhancing the El Camino Real and Angus Avenue intersection to provide pedestrian safety by addition of a second crosswalk, pedestrian crosswalk, countdown timers, medium refuge areas, and new curb ramps. The intersection has a high volume of pedestrian traffic since it's close to the Civic Center, Allen Elementary School, and Samtrans transit stop. So during the update, staff presented the design for curbs, full bulb out and curb extension islands, as you can see on this slide there. The bulb outs are one-piece concrete area connected to the existing sidewalk, and curb extension islands has a separation between the existing curbs. The advantage of the bulb out is that they're one piece, therefore not much of a tripping hazard, but the disadvantage is that we can't use it where there's drainage issues. The curb extension islands, which has been widely used, are the opposite of the bulb outs, and they allow drainage to flow along the existing gutter, but can pose a tripping issue. So to prevent tripping hazard, the curb extension islands, steel grates in place are proposed to be installed between the between the existing curb and the new curb extension islands. And this slide shows a typical bridge between the curb and the curb extension islands. The other item that we discussed was the type of crosswalk. Go ahead. So this picture shows the continental style crosswalk at the upper left-hand corner and then decorative stamp at the other pictures. And both of these have been used along El Camino, but it was decided that decorative crosswalks would be higher maintenance costs and recommended to keep the crosswalks striped. Staff was requested to determine whether the other crosswalks options can be used. And we discussed the crosswalk options with the consultant, and the striped continental crosswalk design, which you see on the upper left-hand corner, has been widely used and accepted by Caltrans, and since it enhances driver visibility. And staff is recommended to use the continental style crosswalk at the intersection. So the other item that was requested by council was to evaluate whether the right turn radius from El Camino from El Camino to Angus. Staff worked with our consultant again to determine whether the installation of a bulb out or curb extension islands would impede cars or trucks from safely turning into Angus. The turning radius was evaluated for cars and trucks, and the result indicated there wouldn't be any additional issues if the curb extension islands were installed. So this slide shows the proposed intersection improvements. The curb extension islands will be installed at the locations where we have drainage issues, which is at the northeast corner of the intersection and near the City Hall Library side. And the southeast corner of the intersection will be designed with a full bulb out. The crosswalk proposed are continental style, as you see on the slide, and a medium refuge is provided to allow the pedestrian to stop if they can't make it all the way across the crosswalk. So prior to finalizing the design, staff is seeking council's input on 3 proposed barriers to alleviate the potential tripping hazard at the northeast corner of the intersection. This slide shows the first option with a metal barrier with a horizontal bar and signage. It's currently used at the same intersection, to prevent pedestrians from crossing. There's a second option, which is metal posts with chains that's being used at various intersections around the Caltrain station. And lastly, placing some plants within the area. And the next step is for the staff to work with our consultant to coordinate the final design and submit the design to Caltrans to obtain the construction permit. So that concludes our presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Jimmy at this time? Robert?
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. Will any of these proposals narrow the width of Angus at the IHOP? Because turning from El Camino either direction, Angus is so narrow there with people waiting to go west on Angus, or buses or trucks coming north on El Camino. It's real tight now. So I wouldn't want to narrow Angus with any bulb outs or. Thank you.
Yeah, Angus wouldn't be narrow. It wouldn't be narrow. The bulb outs and curb extension islands are only at the El Camino real side.
No, I don't think that's what he was saying. I mean, if you're narrowing, I was at 600 El Camino at Angus for 15 years, and that corner, right on the corner of where the IHOP is, cars would take out the ped pole all the time. Yeah, and I'd watch them cut that corner, and it wasn't just trucks. So if you are considering narrowing, making that corner tighter, yeah, it's going to be a problem with that turn. I mean, it might look good on paper, but realistically, if there are cars to go eastbound, westbound on Angus, and there's a truck or even a large vehicle wanting to turn, like an SUV, then it's going to be very difficult, to turn right onto Angus. My other 2 cents, I don't like the stripes. I would rather have a colored, doesn't have to be another material. It could be a colored concrete or asphalt. I'd rather see that. And I'd rather see poles and not chains, in the crosswalks.
Okay, Irene?
Thank you. With the proposed improvements, can we make them without narrowing it slightly at Angus and El Camino, on the El Camino side? I don't know how you would do that. I mean, I'm not asking the question properly. Okay. The intention of the improvements was to provide the handicap access and to make it easier for people to cross and to give them a little cushion between the traffic on El Camino and on the sidewalk. So if we do what Mr. Ibarra says and not add that, then we're defeating the purpose, are we not? Or am I getting it wrong?
Yeah, the purpose of the curb extension islands and bulb outs were to reduce the crossing distance, and that's the advantage of having those in the design.
Okay.
What is it? Do we know exactly the length on the east side and the west side? Because it looks like, even with the bulb outs proposed, it looks like the west side from west side of El Camino to the island is actually even wider. There's a longer distance than from the median to the east side. I mean, if you give them the relief of the island, they just can't make the full cross. Then I think you can possibly do away with the east side bulb out. I mean, or you just do the bulb out on the north side of Angus, in the north corner of Angus.
I agree with Ken that bulb out, taking a right turn into Angus, you're going to have lots of problems. It's tight as it is now. You're going to have some real issues. And I think that it's like 25 seconds to get across there. It's pretty long, isn't it? When it's timed.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the
Yeah,
exact time.
it's pretty long. But if somebody ends up getting stuck, you have the center to sit in. So I think you're going to have real problems with that one bulb out, that right turn into Angus.
Okay.
It's only a single crosswalk.
Mm-hmm. Through the chair, I'm sorry, Irene, did I cut you off? I also have the concern on the turn on Angus. I also don't care for the chains, so I think you're starting to hear universal sound maybe on that one. And I did cross it on Sunday, and Mr. Mayor, you're correct about the timing. It was adequate for me and for some others, but I also knew when I drove by over the weekend, there was two folks that were kind of in the middle of the island. They just didn't have enough time or whatever, got a late start, so that seemed to be okay. I mean, probably for them it was a little uncomfortable with cars going by at a fast rate of speed, but I do think that the Angus is it's going to cause more of a problem with that turn.
Okay, so let's,
So, oh,
Irene, go
thank
ahead.
you. So I'm hearing that the poles, not the chains, which I agree with. The bulb out, not the bulb out, only on the
North.
east.
West side.
east,
West side,
South,
library side.
no, okay, wait a second.
Right here?
No.
Are you eliminating both bulb outs on the east side? I was thinking of leaving the bulb out on the north end and just taking the southeast bulb out for the right turn.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay, did you guys get that one?
So let me make sure that we've got it. So the bulb out on the left-hand top of the picture
No, the
would
right-
remain.
Go ahead, Ken.
Would remain.
Remain, and the
And
right-hand
the one on the
one.
right would be eliminated, the one
Yes.
by IHOP.
Yes, can we do that?
That's the office building.
Yeah, can we do that?
That's IHOP.
Right.
That's a type one.
Okay.
This does not exist.
No, it doesn't.
So this would be a plus.
Right.
Have a crosswalk with a bulb out and a bulb out across on the north side.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, Mr. Ibarra, I disagree with you about the cement thing or the coloring. As a driver, I see this much better.
Well, I'm not saying that it's not visible, I just don't like the look.
Okay. Well, as a driver, I like to see this, and as a pedestrian, I like to be on it because I know the drivers see it better. So I'm going to vote for that,
For the white stripe,
the white stripes.
okay. All right. Yes, sure.
Yeah, so I've crossed this intersection a bunch with my kids when we go to the library, and I mean the sidewalks on El Camino on the east side are extremely short. It's hard to see how they're even legal. I mean, if you look at the picture, I don't see how a wheelchair can even get between this pole that's in the middle of the sidewalk of an already very small sidewalk. So I'm personally in favor of the bulb outs on the east side because like the pedestrians need more space. It's incredibly like unpleasant waiting on this really tiny sidewalk when you're trying to cross the road, and plus that space is already not in use by cars because that's a red zone next to a parking zone. So I don't see how that would impact cars that need to turn right. They just have to stay in the rightmost lane and take the turn slowly. I think having a wider El Camino just encourages the cars to take that dangerous turn faster.
You might be right, yeah.
But both sides, on like both sides of the east part of Angus, if you look at the other part where the current crosswalk is by IHOP, it's this very narrow bit, and you're waiting on a downward slope. I mean, I've been there with my kids in a stroller, and we actually we go forward and push the crosswalk at El Camino, and then
back up.
we go back up and wait on Angus,
Right.
both because it's an extremely short sidewalk, and there's just so much really fast traffic. You want some shelter from it. But,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you.
Marty?
Has our consultant had any preliminary discussion with Caltrans and making sure where we're at right now is kosher with them?
No. Currently, right now, we're performing the design, and that the next phase of work is to submit these drawings to Caltrans and have that engagement.
All right. Apparently, everybody's not in favor of change on the council, so I agree.
Right.
At the last council meeting, we did talk about the coloring, and it sounded like it'd be more of a maintenance issue. Did the consultant come up with any alternative or some supporting documentation that a colored concrete or a paver would be okay or be a better design than the paint? Or the painted, colored, or the striping now?
Well, currently, we're proposing to use the continental style.
Okay.
But it really depends on the consensus. What would you like to see over there? Because we presented the the decorative crosswalks of the last time, and it's been used in other locations along El Camino. But it is a maintenance issue because the colors can get,
Yeah.
you know,
All right. I'll go with striping. Like as on the left.
So
And-
I support the design that you just put up there. I think there's valid concerns about that bulb out on Angus, and if it's really needed for pedestrians, I think it's really important.
If I could, I mean,
Just like
I
that.
want to thank the resident for pointing that out, because as much as I know that intersection, it's 3 lanes and almost a turning pocket. So what you're doing is that you're eliminating that turning pocket, which actually will probably provide you a better radius to make that turn, that tight turn. And what I've witnessed is 3 lanes of cars at that intersection, and then a 4th car trying to make that turn, which is too tight. So now they'll make a wider turn. So I appreciate your comments. Yeah. And I mean, in the interest of safety, if the stripes are the safer issue and everything, I would just hope that we get more maintenance so that they don't look all faded like our crosswalks do right now, and so we can get some nice crisp stripes, on a more regular annual basis. But no chains.
Okay, no change.
Okay, so the design as is, 2 bulb outs, white painted stripes.
Right.
And poles.
Right. Got it?
Thank you.
No change, no change.
poles, just no
Okay,
chains.
you have direction?